Joining us, he's your word.
Okay, that's wonderful to know. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I keep holding you up. It is 9:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of business, well, first I have to take a roll call, I'm sorry, because of the remote. I see Jen Liptak and John Pegg, Austin Davis and Jerry DeLon. Representative Ms. Gorski cannot make it today, and I see the folks here on the dais.
And we got Jessica.
And Jessica, I see as well.
I'm here.
And Senator Brewster. Yes, thank you. Okay, so, all right, so the first order of business will be Pledge of Allegiance, and then a moment of silence in support of the people of the Ukraine. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, first order of business then is approval of the minutes. I have a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, those are approved. Now the report of the Chief Executive Officer, Catherine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. May I please have a moment of silence for the following retired employees who passed away in January and February. Operators Robert Hamer, William Bush Jr., Roger Messino, Harry Spath, and Edmund Peskowski. Senior Project Engineer Ward Rygard, Technician Richard Jones, Administrative Assistant Marion Clark, Traffic Receipts Collector Frank Ivankovich, and Plumber and Building Equipment Repair Person Richard Crowley. Thank you. Port Authority's commitment to this community is to provide services safely and efficiently. And in our world today, 2 years after COVID started, and the likelihood with another strain facing us, our riders deserve to know that we're doing everything in our power to keep them safe and preserve service. Our employees, too, deserve to work in a safe environment. We've lost 7 coworkers to COVID, and none of us want to lose any more. Part of my job is to do everything possible to protect people who work here and the riders who rely on our services. I came here to grow and improve this agency. That's even more necessary today as the world around us is rapidly changing. The last 2 years have not been easy for anybody. The pandemic is tragic. We're all at our wits' ends and not in our best places. The decision to implement a vaccine policy was rooted in a desire to protect employees and customers who rely on bus, rail, and access services every day. We will always defer to safety. Unless there's any questions, Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Catherine. With that, we'll move on to the report of the Performance and Oversight Committee from Chair Michelle Zamianek.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Performance Oversight Committee met last week, and I have 2 resolutions for your consideration this morning. The committee reviewed 6 procurement items and determined the bids to be in accordance with the authority's procurement policies and procedures, the prices to be fair and reasonable, and the bidders to be responsible and the bids responsive. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends the award of bids listed in the resolution for the total amount of approximately $7.6 million. My fellow members, I respectfully respect the board to approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Anyone?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
The next resolution seeks authorization to award a construction contract for the South Busway Rehabilitation Project. To perform the work for the contract, bid documents were prepared and publicly advertised, and 3 bids were received. After review of the bids, it has been determined that the bid of Lindy Paving Incorporated is the lowest responsive bidder, meeting the authority's requirements for the contract. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends awarding the contract to Lindy Paving Incorporated in the amount of $6,693,326.40, subject to completing all pre-award requirements. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries.
Finally, the committee was provided with a report concerning the financial year 2021 modified physical inventories. With that complete. And with that, I have no further business this morning, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Michelle. And with that, we'll move on to the report of the Planning and Stakeholder Relations Committee from our chair, John Tague.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, and fellow stakeholders. The Planning and Stakeholders Relations Committee met last week. I have 3 items for the board. Number 1, April service changes, Philip St. Pierre. Philip St. Pierre, Director of Transit Scheduling, provided an overview of the April 2020 service changes. There are 6 bus routes that will have service changes on weekdays only, and only 3 bus routes that will have changes on the weekdays and weekends. There are 7 bus routes where the routing has been adjusted, each for different reasons. One being the McKeesport Transportation Center has reopened, another due to ridership. There are 12 bus routes will have adjusted schedule to help improve reliability. The second item is the Allegheny County Transit Council held a hybrid meeting in March. They received an update on the April service changes and the liaison report. Ralph Williams, president of ACTC, provided the president's report and distributed ACTC shirts to members. Their next meeting is scheduled for April. The Committee for Accessible Transportation did not meet in March. Their next quarterly meeting is May 5th from 5:30 to 7:30. As of right now, the meeting is expected to be virtual. Unless there are any other questions, that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the report of the Finance Committee from Anna Gork, our chair.
Morning, Chair and fellow board members. The Finance Committee met last week and I have 1 resolution for your consideration this morning. This resolution authorizes the authority to enter into a 4-year UPAS agreement with Carlow University and any other eligible university in 2022. An eligible university is defined as a university or college that is nationally or regionally accredited by a United States Department of Education recognized accrediting agency with its main physical campus located in Allegheny County and a student body of at least 2,000 students. This agreement enables the authority to charge the respective university 60% per tap during the pilot period and 63% per tap at the start of the year 1 of the agreement, or fall of 2022, increasing 3% each year for the remainder of the agreement. In this agreement, the university agrees to use Ready to Ride, Port Authority's mobile ticketing services as a fare medium. My fellow members, I respectfully report the board approved this resolution.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
Also at the meeting, the February 2022 financial results were reported. It was reported that total operating income for the month of February was $4.3 million and was under budget by $3.9 million. Total operating income for FY 2022 is $30.35 million under budget for the fiscal year due to lower passenger revenue and access shared ride revenue. Staff noted that federal ARPA funding will be utilized to make up for this revenue shortfall. Total operating expenses in February were $4.2 million below budget due to lower materials and supplies, purchase services, and employee benefits. Total operating expenses year-to-date continues to trend below budget by $33.9 million. Total subsidy for fiscal year 2022 is $4.2 million below budget due to lower state operating assistance and vehicle overhaul subsidy. Federal stimulus invoicing for fiscal year 2022 is at $28.2 million. This is in addition to the $105.4 million invoiced for FY 2020 and FY 2021. Finally, it was reported that the authority ended the month of February with approximately $169 million in cash reserves. This concludes my Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Ann. With that, we'll move on to the report of the Technology Committee from Chair Jen Liptak.
Thank you, Chairman Letwin, and good morning, fellow board members. The committee met on Thursday, March 17th, and I have one resolution for consideration today. As noted during the January committee meeting and again in March, the video wall within the Operations Control Center, or the OCC, requires upgrades to both equipment and underlying programming. The authority desires to utilize the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's CoStar's purchasing agreement to procure equipment from Visual Sound Incorporated in the amount of $800,775.32. The Technology Committee therefore recommends that the contract be authorized under the terms and conditions of Pennsylvania Department of General Services contract number 034-023. So my fellow board members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
I'd also like to note that the Port Authority's Chief Information Officer, Jeffrey Devlin, provided a brief overview of the technology department's annual work and also what they're doing currently and in the long term, which I was very pleased with, and then again applaud their efforts under the leadership of Catherine, of course, with our CIO Jeff Devlin, for the work that they're doing to move our department and our transportation organization forward. Sorry about stumbling there a little bit. So with that concludes my presentation. I thank you, board members, and I'm concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. That concludes all the committee reports. Is there any new business? Okay, and with that, we'll move on to public comment. We have 9 speakers listed today, and I will remind each speaker of the 2-minute time limitation when you hear the ding. 3 minute in the case of 3 minute time. 3 minute. Okay, I'm thinking of the airport. Sorry. 3 minute time limitation when you hear the ding. Please wrap up your remarks and don't make me be the hook. Okay. With that, our first speaker is Ralph Williams, president of ACTC. Going once, going twice. Sold to Louis Wolkenstein, our next speaker. Going once, going twice. Sold to our third speaker, Richard Fuller.
Is there some technical issue?
Going once, going twice. With that, we'll move on to Laura Perkins.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi.
It confirms that the system's working. Thank you.
Hi, I'm an organizer at Casa San Jose, a nonprofit organization that serves the Latinx community of Southwest PA. I'd like to request 3 things. The first is better language access. According to the 2020 census, which undercounts immigrant populations, Allegheny County's Hispanic population grew by 80% since 2010, and it continues to grow. The population Casa San Jose serves does not typically use websites and instead relies on auditory announcements on buses and trains. Every time I get on the Red Line train, it goes through Beachview, and I run into Spanish-speaking community member every time I get on that train. Now that the Red Line of the T has been replaced by a shuttle, none of the announcements in the T stations and on the trains are in Spanish. We are facing the same confusion with all the lines that have been cut during the pandemic. Our community, a community that relies disproportionately more on public transit than other communities, should have access to this crucial information, and I would like to work with Port Authority to make this happen. Secondly, I request that the Red Line shuttles run at the same frequency as the trains that they have replaced. I've been on average waiting for 30 minutes in the morning and afternoon every day this week and the past few weeks. And also that those shuttles, their GPS be put on like transit apps, because if I have to wait for 30 minutes, I don't know when it's coming. I could wait for 2 minutes, or I could wait for, sometimes it's been up to 55 minutes. This has been really frustrating, and also frustrating for our Latino communities. And I can't help but wonder that if this were happening in a wealthier, wider part of town, that this would be less of an issue. Thirdly, I wanted to thank you for the free fares these past 2 weeks. Two important effects I've noticed with our community is that people new to public transit have started using it for the first time, and onboarding and offboarding of buses and trains has been much more efficient. Pittsburghers for Public Transit have shared their Fair Fares campaign with Port Authority Transit, which includes a proposal for free fares. These past 2 weeks of free fares shows us that it is not only possible, but it is beneficial to our community, and I request that this proposal be reconsidered. Thank you for your time and for your dedication for public transit.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perkins. With that, we'll move on to Susan Padilla. Yeah, come on up.
Good morning to you all. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, to piggyback off of what Ms. Perkins has just said, I'd like Port Authority to implement a consistent emergency system in the event that the red line light rail is down, complete with an inset on the written schedule showing times and stops, and make buses visible on the transit app so that people can know when they're coming and not have a anxiety about when they're going to catch a bus. But yes, it has been very difficult for us due to the infrequency of the bus shuttles service, and that perhaps buses could be borrowed from other routes where they're more frequent, like, for example, the 61, 71 routes have a lot of buses going. Maybe during an emergency situation, buses could be taken off of some of those routes and placed on shuttle routes. And also, we would appreciate transparency and honesty. And a lot of times, telephone operators and management, whether they know what's going to go on with the shuttle buses or they don't, they tell us any old thing. You know, they'll tell us there are 3 buses on when there is only 1 or even none on to pick up patrons. And we've been stranded, or we've stood there for hours only to be told there are no more shuttle buses and we have to walk from wherever we're coming from. So it's been very difficult. And we've also been told that drivers have to volunteer to drive the shuttle buses, whereas I noticed that on March Madness or St. Patrick's Day parade days or any other events, there were plenty of buses, shuttle buses, to pick up patrons. But when it comes to just getting back and forth to work, we've been having a very difficult time. We've hardly had any buses at all some days. So if drivers can be told to take the route during events, they can be told to take the route to get people back and forth as the rider base. So we need adequate service and to get to and from work. And we just want to make sure that Beachview doesn't suffer as becoming a transportation desert through this difficulty that we're having with the South Busway, the bridge shifting down at the South Busway, because really some planning should have gone into this a long time ago to make sure that we have service regardless of whether the T is down because of ice on the lines or whatever the reason may be. So I remember years ago we had the 42F bus coming through when they worked on the South Busway Bridge, and that was efficient and it was effective. They had regular interval buses that would take us all the way to the Station Square.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is our own president of ATU, Local 85, Ross Nicotero.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank the members of the board for affording me the opportunity to speak for the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 85. My name is Ross Nicotera. I'm the President Business Agent of ATU Local 85. I'm here today to talk about the unfortunate situation created by the Port Authority's recent mandate vaccination policy. First and foremost, this is your decision, therefore you must own it. At Local 85 has stated time and time again, we are advocates for getting the vaccination, but we do not agree that you force it on people. The recent massive job loss, reduction of service, and embarrassing black eye suffered by the entire mission is caused by your mandate. Was unnecessary and completely unavoidable. This was your doing. As you know, over the past 2 years, we reported to work day in and day out through the most challenging time in history. While management stayed at home, some reaped huge bonuses or got paid from other states or after their employment ended. We carried public transit through the worst of times, while politicians graciously called us essential workers and heroes. Now it's just laughable. They were all political soundbites designed to make them look good. We know how they really feel in their eyes. Of Port Authority, we're not heroes, we're zeros. What makes your mandate even more frustrating is for 2 years prior to forcing it upon us, we worked tirelessly with Port Authority leadership to address the concerns and challenging circumstances of the pandemic. And at each turn, we achieved solutions together to work for everyone, both the company and the local. So when you jammed your mandate down our throat, affording us no voice, no rule in the process, how it affected our membership, you made it clear to the employees who do all the work, you'd prefer to do it alone. As recent events plainly proven, however, Port Authority cannot do it alone. Local 85 reportedly told you that forcing the mandate on its employees would result in drastic job loss, extraordinary service failures, and the entire world lifted mandates and rolled back mitigation measures. Port Authority astonishingly went in the opposite direction. Despite our plea, worldwide trends, you nevertheless jammed it down our throat anyway. Now that the chickens have come home to roost, Port Authority seems shocked. Worse yet, Port Authority is shamelessly placing blame on the mandate on our employees. Don't blame others, own the consequences of your own decisions. Finally, as many of you know, our bargaining negotiations for a new labor agreement have begun. If the recent treatment of our members is any measure on how Port Authority plans to approach negotiations, I'm afraid to say to all of you, it looks like we're in for a long haul and an unpleasant process. Essential heroes and workers will soon see the character of the Port Authority and whether that claim is genuine. You need to solve the problems that you created, and you can only do this if you achieve to partner with us instead of excluding us and punishing us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nicotera. Okay, with that, we'll move on to Philip Clark. Mr. Clark. Okay, Charlene Sainer.
Vision problem, so I need this.
No good.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Charlene Sainer, and I am from Beachview, which is in the City Council District 4. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. And I also want to thank you for requiring drivers to be vaccinated and for masking. What Port Authority does is a public service, and it's in all our best interest that we all stay safe. So, the Port Authority mission to connect people to life, your vision to become America's premier public transportation agency. I don't know any of you who I'm addressing with the exception of John Tagg, and I know him as a very strong advocate. So I'm going to make a lot of presumptions. I'm going to presume that those who serve this agency are committed to your vision and mission statement. And because I believe that people still have a basic sense of caring and some degree of empathy, I'm also going to presume that you couldn't possibly be aware of the almost inhumane rail bus shuttle service in Beachview. Otherwise, you would certainly be outraged and changes would have already taken place. So to meet your mission, I know you're as anxious as I and my fellow commuters are to correct these issues. And there are many, but I'm just going to go over a couple. Because Beachview doesn't normally have bus service, naturally people are unaware of bus stops because there's not bus service. So even though there aren't marked stops, drivers have stated that their supervisors are very specific and that persons cannot be picked up unless they are at a designated stop. There are no maps. There are some stops that have been marked within the past couple weeks, but there aren't any designated stops. So if you don't designate a stop and you don't make people aware, how then can you pass them up and say you're not at a designated stop? In fact, this happened to a gentleman I met a couple weeks ago while waiting for a shuttle in Station Square. The gentleman powered his wheelchair in the street so the bus could pull down the ramp. The bus passed him up. And when I met this gentleman, and I can't read his name because he has difficulty writing, he has limited mobility in his arms and his hands, but he did sign our petition stating for changes. So this kind of cruelty, someone is not at a stop, you don't designate them, so then you pass them up. I mean, this is unbelievable. So why hasn't a map or a legend been published online or in paper? And you surely couldn't have known that shuttles frequently stop for 3 or more hours during the day. They just stop. So for people who can't stand for long periods of time, who are sick or hungry, have to tinkle or have to go to work, standing for 3 hours and not knowing when the shuttle is coming is unrealistic.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Could you wrap up? If you have a written.
Okay, and this is what I'll do to wrap up. We're proposing that Port Authority work with our district councilman, Anthony Coghill, who is here, who is willing to work with Port Authority and the public to make some changes. We want positive change, and we have ideas because we live this. We've lived this at least 7 times in the past 5 years. There should be a contingency plan, and we want a positive outcome. But we are asking, and I'm asking, Mr. Chairperson, will you commit to working with Anthony Coghill's office to help us find a solution to this problem, because it's ongoing. And it has nothing to do with the drivers not being around, by the way.
Thank you. If you have a written comments you want to send over.
Okay, I will. But I'm asking, can you make a commitment to work with City Councilman Anthony Coghill's office?
I will make a commitment that our executive director will do that.
Oh, okay. So we appreciate that commitment that your executive director will work with Anthony's office. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our last speaker is Marilyn Brown.
Good morning, board members. I'm Marilyn Brown, a senior resident and heavy user of Port Authority services, and glad that I get free transport at my age. It's a wonderful benefit for a person like me. Believe me, I appreciate it. My chief concern was about the bidding on the bridge repairs, and I think it has been already addressed. I would only ask for clarification if the item previously discussed by your committee person, the contract for the South Busway Rehabilitation Project, does that include the recent problem with the bridge that caused the shutdown?
Do we know the answer to that question?
Does that encompass that?
Ms. Brown, it does not. That's a separate procurement that we've already gone through, expedited as an emergency.
I see. Well, I would address that then. That's my chief concern, is the lack of publicity on the status of the repairs to the bridge crossing Sawmill Run Boulevard. And whether bids are, what is the status of that? I don't expect you to address it right now, but I think that everybody who is a stakeholder would appreciate knowing just where the Port Authority is on that bidding process and how long it may be. Perhaps some realistic projections when the project will be awarded, completed, that type of thing. People have a lot of questions when there's no information out there, and the best way you can avoid everybody calling in all the time is to give us some information.
Okay.
And now another thing I'd like to address is I know there have been some very unfortunate confrontations between tired passengers and tired drivers. And that has been a concern of some. But I also want to give credit to the drivers who are patient and are trying to do the very best they can under the circumstances. And I don't think they should go unrecognized for that. And another thing I wanted to address here was the scheduling of drivers and equipment, better scheduling of that. I know sometimes you have equipment that's down for maintenance or whatever, but it seems like good management could do a better job of scheduling drivers and equipment. My last point is the very word, you are the Port Authority transit. The very word transit connotes moving forward. It's to be hoped that we're going to move forward and not backward. Yeah, I think you get my point. It's something that all the stakeholders and all you board members and everybody involved should be thinking in that mode. And service is better than it has been, but it can still get better than it has been also. And I thank you for my time. And if I have any time left, I'll yield it to anyone else who has comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do have actually a last minute request. We usually don't do these, but we have City Councilman Coghill, I'm told, is here and would like to address the board. So since given his status as a city councilman.
Thank you, board members. As you said, I'm Pittsburgh City Councilman Anthony Coghill. And I first and foremost want to thank you for retaining Ms. Kellerman. I think she's incredible, and I think she's moving the Port Authority into the future in all the right directions. We have had her out in the neighborhood. I'm from Beachview, and I'm here to support, my constituents. Ms. Kellerman has been out, and besides the $2 million raised platform project we have going on, which I think is, phenomenal. And when it's done, it's going to be handicapped accessible. And as one of the speakers had said, we rely heavily on public transportation in Beachview. So I thank Ms. Kellerman for that. And I really appreciate, since the bridge went down, nobody could have anticipated that, but I really appreciate your actions as to correcting and fixing the Fallowfield station and what you're doing in Dormont. So all in all, what I'm saying is I'm very pleased with Port Authority and the communication I have back and forth with them. That being said, I am here to support my constituents, and I hear the same complaints that they do. It's mostly, I would say, inconsistency, where people are waiting at stops for 2 hours, and I have a piece of property right next to a T-stop, so I hear it firsthand too. And, so they're kind of up in arms about it. I realize that it's challenging times for you all. And as Ms. Lawson said, as to the Spanish-speaking community in my neighborhood, I hope, I'm not sure how many more weeks we're going to be down as far as the bridge goes, and but I imagine it's going to be a couple months still. But I also get a lot of complaints about the buses coming through the neighborhood, making these tight turns on these city streets, which is next to impossible in some cases. So I don't know if we could look at smaller buses to try to, maneuver around the streets until we can get to that point. But all in all, the neighborhood is getting frustrated. I can see with the inconsistencies and the long waits and things of that nature. But I just want to say I'm really pleased with the Port Authority. These are growing pains. I feel once we get through there, we're going to be in good shape. I think most of you know that Beachview, I believe, is the only part of the Port Authority rail line that actually runs right down Main Street, which a long time ago, a lot of them did, but I love it. It creates a charm and, an atmosphere, I think, that is second to none. That being said, when they had to, I remember many years ago when we had to replace the concrete for the rail line, it really uproots the neighborhood. And I feel like the Port Authority owes it to Beachview to go above and beyond to make sure that we have, the proper announcements, proper transportation when we need it. So with that, I appreciate it. I didn't have a prepared speech. I just wanted to come on behalf of my constituents and stress their frustrations. But all in all, I want to thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Coggle.
Yes.
Okay, with that, our next regular meeting is scheduled for April 29th. Oh, actually, I can make that. I thought it was April 22nd. I don't know why. Okay, so, and with that, we stand adjourned.
So moved.
I'm talking the same.